Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery, and down here I've got a basic order to things where, in general, oldest is off to the left, up on that shelf over there, and newest is off to the right over here, with exceptions such as the Vermibag Mini. It is my oldest system, but it doesn't really comply with being where the oldest stuff would normally be over there. And then there's other things that just don't really fit in either because of their unusual shape. I've got the outdoor worm bag that I bought in recently. I've got these tall yellow buckets, which technically, in the order of things, belong right after these systems and earlier than these. So they fit right in here in terms of when they were launched relative to some other systems. The outdoor worm bag is represented by this thing, so that's all up here too by the older of my systems. So the systems we're checking in on are the yellow buckets today, running European nightcrawlers. And it's so interesting how, like if you look at the numbers here, something that's been happening over the past few check-ins. This is day 217 for the yellow buckets, which is exactly 31 weeks. But up here in the corner, I started noticing a pattern. It was like yesterday's check-in was 210 days, which is exactly 30 weeks. The day before that, our check-in was at day 98, which is exactly 14 weeks. And then even one day prior to that, 4 days in a row now, it was systems that were 168 days of age, which is exactly 24 weeks. So, I don't know. For whatever reason, I tend to spot little patterns like this. But the basics about these yellow buckets is right here on the yellow board, on the green board. And 10 days since the last check-in. And the last thing I really want to make comment on is the phase in which these systems are. So like I've got systems foraging. These two well, this is a pair and that's a pair, but I kind of see those as two systems there, not so much as four. There we've got foraging going on, and then even the outdoor worm bag, represented by this piece of plastic here, is also foraging. So I believe it is time to get the yellow buckets into that foraging phase as well. So I might actually retroactively treat the last check-in as the start of foraging for these little guys. So why don't we get them up on the bench and take care of getting them fed. So just to explain briefly what my point of view is on foraging. Foraging means they keep getting fed. In the past, foraging had meant they get nothing, and then they were really reliant on, you know, picking through the system and nipping off any leftovers that remained, leftover bits of bedding, leftover bits of food. But nowadays, I'm thinking more in terms of foraging being more about the residual bedding that might be in the systems that needs to be worked down. And at the same time, I could still keep, you know, composting kitchen scraps and stuff with those worms, just not giving them fresh bedding and letting them work down what exists. So last time at day 207, they got bedding. I put some shredded paper cardboard mix down underneath the feeding, and I think we're already starting to see part of the feeding they got last time. Banana peel. Pretty easily identifiable. I think it's just a banana peel, or was there actual banana in there? Well, it's hard to say, but it might be. Seems like a pretty popular spot for the worms to be in. Perhaps 10 days is a bit of a short period in between feedings. They're clearly still working on this piece of banana peel. That's okay, no problem. I'm going to give them more, regardless. It's like a slow motion roll off. It felt like this thing was just kind of rolling off my fingers, but didn't want to drop. It just kind of sat there, slowly rolling, but never falling off. So, leftover banana. And down here, I think this is some of the shredded paper cardboard from last time. Let's give the feeding zone a little bit of a aeration and tilling up. And now we're going to start bumping into something that was mentioned down here really briefly at the bottom. We didn't give it any attention, but the 179-day-old now corn cobs that were soaked for maybe a month and a half or something. These little corn cobs were probably, each of these was probably about a half of a corn cob. You can see it from its diameter. It's probably about the thickness of one of my fingers anymore, whereas its original thickness must have been quite a bit bigger. Even its length has changed. It is unusual how the whole thing seems to just scale down in size proportionally, like it's being shrunken. And here's a second one. And I'm starting to wonder if these systems might end up just getting harvested and needing to have this corncob experiment just follow the worms into a new home at some point. I mean, if we start into the foraging, and then, you know, our aim is to see certain things, you know, kind of break down. Leaf stems are the main culprit that take time. Well, I don't know. I'm alright with not giving them any new bedding at this point. There is that top piece of paper that we saw when we first came into the system. So if there's some sort of a need for something of that type of consistency or material, then they can have it, you know. It's right there on the top surface. Otherwise, I'd like to see them working down whatever still exists in this material. And it does seem like there's not a whole lot. I just keep plowing through and I keep finding basically castings everywhere. Here and there, just little chunks of stuff that feels like maybe leftover food. I could see pieces, little strips of shredded cardboard. You know, there's obviously lots of stuff still in here, but let's alright, let's just kind of take a snapshot in our mind about how this system is coming along, and imagine that the other two buckets that we're going to work on next, because this is yellow bucket number 3, so yellow buckets number 4 and 5 will come next, but kind of like those systems on the shelves where I was treating the two stacked systems almost as like a single system. With these 3 buckets too, they're the same age. They were all launched with what was thought to be the same number of worms. They've been managed the same exact way over their entire lifetimes. So, just dropped a little bit of their yummy food here. Oops. That's okay. So I think alright, let's give them just a little bit more there. Trying to divvy up the portion consistently so each system gets roughly the same amount. So yeah, you know, these systems being managed all the same over their entire lifetimes for the most part, says we could probably expect more of the same going forward. So 2 corn cobs encountered. There could be others in here, but we're not treating this as some sort of a strict test. It's just sort of very loose basic rules of the game is not to interfere with the breakdown. So don't crush them, break them, help them break down. They got to break down on their own accord. And any bucket in which, at some point in the future, we can no longer locate a piece of corn cob, we'll have to treat the experiment as complete. So, we're done with 3. On to bucket number 4. I think it was in bucket number 3 where we had actually taken the cardboard tube in which we had placed a banana peel and torn it into pieces. However, here in bucket 4 and in bucket number 5 that follows this one, we didn't do that. So we might find leftover bits of cardboard. I think actually last time we did finally start tearing up the cardboard to try to help it along. So this is some of our bedding left from last time, quite a bit of it. Here again, yummy banana activity. I could tell just from touching it. It's mobbed with worms. It's kind of cool. And here and there I'm bumping into a piece of corn cob. Might be interesting one day to just actually fish these all out, keep track of which corn cob belongs to which system, and maybe soak them in some water and get all the castings and everything off of them to really see what kind of progress they're making. So, like I said, it's not a very formal experiment. It's just kind of, hey, let's see what happens. With the original idea being that perhaps by having been soaked for about a month and a half, that they would break down quicker, because corn cobs are just famous for taking forever in the worm bins. Alright, hopefully we've left enough space here to drop in today's feeding, minus any bedding. I don't know, did we add grit to the last system? I can't recall. I think we did. Trying to be consistent, but I sometimes miss things, you know, and that's okay. If it still seems recoverable, I can still go back and cover my tracks. Then I do, but a lot of times it's just sort of kind of the ship has sailed, you know, and it's sorry. Just have to wait till next time. So now we're humming along, kind of knowing what to expect. Now you just sort of plow into it and get the job done. Give them their feeding and then give them their piece. So on to the last system, bucket number 5. Alrighty. I was kind of looking out for chunks of cardboard, of the cardboard tube, but perhaps just by having helped it along by fragmenting it into smaller pieces last time, maybe we aided its breakdown to the point where it's really not recognizable anymore now. Another banana peel, probably equally popular with the wormies as we saw in the other systems. Fun, fun, fun. Alright, you know, I think right over here I might be seeing some of the, cardboard tube. It's not the entire tube. The tube was kind of broken up into pieces, and there's remnants of it right here. And I felt like I bumped into a corncob bit right there. So tiny. That was probably like half of an entire corncob when it started out, unless I'm misremembering. Here's more banana stem. I think I'm really just looking to get everything more or less blended in. I wasn't really trying to retain the position of anything in particular, except usually the leftovers, like that banana would just go right back down into the feeding zone along with the other foods as well as corncob bits. But let's get everything off my glove and come in with what remains of these lovely strawberries and Carl Rob, I believe is what it is. Mostly leaves, little chunks of the vegetable in here as well. And a shot of grit. So that was fun. Systems look good. I did have my water bottle here on the ready, and a lot of my systems have been getting sprayed down with water if it seems that it would help, but here it just seemed like everything's great. I think the moisture level's pretty much perfect. So that brings us to the end of our check-in with the now 31-week-old, 217-day-old systems. No new bedding added today. So now I'm going to treat this as foraging started at day 207, and we're now 10 days into it. So that's it. I got a few things to take care of getting cleaned up and put away, but that's boring. I'm not going to waste time with that. Before I go really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.